And I think we should be live.
All right, yeah, we are live. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome back to the time after season two. 2 year wait has begun. Yeah. Hello. I'm Strider, and here with me we have two really cool people. We have V. Hello.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here for you.
And we have Ulmo, who is also being the MVP of the evening because he's doing the behind the scenes stuff as well. Hello, Ulmo.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. All right. Well, hello, chat. Hello, everybody in the chat. A lot of already familiar names. Let's just start off by asking everybody in the chat and also here in the stream, how are we dealing with the fact that season two has come and gone very quickly, if I might add. So let's hear your thoughts in the chat, and let's start with we. How are you holding up? There's no rings of power for about 2 years.
Honestly, it's kind of freeing from the work that I've been doing on Twitter, but disappointing at the same time. I don't have anything to look out on Wednesdays except school. So Thursdays. Sorry, I mixed up the dates. Uh, So yeah, I guess we will have to deal with that. At least this time around, we have other Tolkien projects to look forward to, which is very nice for the Tolkien community. We won't do like a 2 year long hiatus of non-Tolkien projects, so that's good. On the other hand, I'm really missing the show, and I want to know what's next because they didn't exactly leave us in a cliffhanger, but they left us in a really cool place, and I'm really excited to see it next season.
Well said. Yeah, yeah. We didn't finish really on any particular cliffhangers. Like there is one or two, but the story did kind of wrap up this almost like a lot of the arcs were 2 season arcs basically. So a lot of things kind of came to a close, and yeah, I guess it is a pretty good way to end the season, knowing that you have to wait for two more years. I think yeah, I think you're right. Umo, how about you? How are you dealing with all of this?
I mean, pretty well. I don't need to wake up early in the morning and have to edit the videos for Harry anymore. So, dumb pots.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think, I mean, yeah, similar. It's strange that, yeah, it's over. It was here for 6 weeks. That 3 episode drop at the start of a season. You kind of like it, but then you also kind of hate it because of this. Um, but yeah, it's strange. It's like we've been waiting for literally 2 years, and now it's a 2 year wait, and it was here for like yeah 6 weeks. Um, but it is we as you say, like there's a lot of talking stuff coming up. There will not be a drought of talking content um between season two and season three, which is really good news. Yeah, the next thing is War of the Rohirrim. We will be doing a lot of cool stuff over there regarding that. Uh, but let's chat about season two a little bit, and also let me just shout out some people in the chat. Jessica says she's not dealing well, and there's a lot of pain going on uh, with the lack of episodes. Well, yeah. Let's talk about what is the first thing that comes to your thoughts when you think of season two. And let's start with V.
Uh,
Maybe some scenes,
N-
characters,
Yeah,
stories.
and I
I know
had a
there's a lot, but the first thing that comes to mind.
there is a lot. I think I would go with uh, Halbrand to Anatar transformation. It was one of the most iconic scenes in the whole season. I love the way they did it, and it it covered that hole that everyone was wondering how they will use the same actor for to go back to rings to kill Celebrimbor basically when Galadriel has warned him against him, and I think it was a really cool idea the way they went about it. So yeah, I will go with that for season two.
All right, honestly, yeah, that's a big choice. What about you, Ulmo? What's the thing that comes to your mind? The first thing that comes to mind when you think of season two?
Oh, just like Flixer DK says, it's 100% gonna be Anatar and Celebrimbor. Like it's not even close, and it should be less Elrond. Okay, like I don't like Elrond. I'm joking. Okay, that was a joke, just to tease V a bit, but you know.
She knows you wouldn't dare. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think, yeah. Let's be real. The MVPs of the season, despite the fact that there's a lot of good performances this season. I think pretty much every character, or almost every character at least, has like really stepped up. There was a lot of really good stuff for at least most of them, if not all. But yeah, we know who is who are the MVPs, and it's a toss up. You know, like is it Anatar or Celebrimbor? Is it Charlie Vickers or Charles Edwards? I personally would like to like lean more towards Charles Edwards, just because he has done his part. He has kind of came from behind, as they say, like in a race. Given how some people took his casting, and he on the surface does not look as most of the illustrations of Celebrimbor, right? However, the man, it's like I feel like it's like a it's like Hugh Jackman with Wolverine. Wolverine in the comics, he's a very short, buff, hairy dude. Um, Hugh Jackman is tall. He is very tall. He's a tall, big guy, and I remember, all those years ago, there was a lot of noise, like, oh, this guy is not proper, and then here we are, 20 odd years later, and he is the Wolverine. Every Wolverine that comes after that will be compared to Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, and I feel like anytime I see a lot of people like the Elden joke. Anytime anyone, anytime we see Celebrimbor on screen in the future, whenever that might be, he will be compared to Charles Edwards at Celebrimbor for a very good reason. Um, yeah, I do want to also give another shout out to my boy Adar. I feel like he also did a terrific job. Um, Sam Hazeldine totally took that role as his own and managed to really um, become the character and pushed further, and I really appreciate that. And I feel like, I mean, he was voted on the channel unofficially so far, but in one of the streams as the favorite OC character of the show. So there we go. Um, Ulmo, what was the storyline that you found the most compelling? Or is it still Eregion, or is it maybe some other storyline?
Um, I think for me it's still Eregion. Yeah, I think that by in the episode 8, the whole Durin thing was really well done, but it was like too short for what's it was really cool, and I think it hit us all with the feelings with the sentence of you were getting stronger and all of that, but it was not enough for me to be like, okay, that's the storyline for me in season 2. because it was mostly surrounding the creation of the rings and the manipulation of Celebrimbor, which is something that all the book nerds and lore nerds are gonna have been looking forward to for years and years. So yeah, for me that's the one.
Fair enough. Lee, what do you think?
I think yeah, for me is Eregion storyline for sure, and I think that's the thing that I liked the most about season two as well. The storyline that they tried to boost as the main one was actually one of the best storylines because when you remember season one, the main story arc was around Galadriel and Halbrand and their trip around Middle Earth. And for a lot of people, it wasn't the favorite storyline, me included. For me, it was Edward and Durin, whatever they were doing in Casa Doom and Linden. So I think coming off season two and seeing all the comments, the fact that the Eregion storyline did portray like the main role and the main like the protagonistic place, and was also so much like beloved, whatever you want to say, painful. It's a very good outcome for season two, and it shows the improvement that they've done with the show and a bit with the storytelling, in my opinion. Like the other storylines were mostly there to um, dress, let's say, to appease to the main storyline. And even though Numeno and Rune weren't directly like in it, they still had some connections, and they took a second role to give that main storyline more time to develop and actually deliver the emotional damage that it had to be delivered. So yeah.
Yeah, well said. I think for me, maybe the most impressive thing that the show did for me, the second season did for me. I feel like I was already hoping and kind of like rooting for some of these storylines to become really good, and they have. I saw the potential, and they showed us that it has potential, and they really stepped up and fulfilled the promise. However, I kind of I would prefer if they were not in the show, but I do kind of I am kind of curious about even the Hobbit storyline. Like, what is going to happen? What is their plan for the hobbits throughout the show? I saw some theories that maybe they will let the hobbits be perhaps for a season or two, and we will maybe see them further down the line. Now that the stranger and Nori have kind of said goodbye, I feel like that's an interesting idea, and it would probably be for the benefit of the overall story because that means just more screen time for everything else that is more lore based. But yeah, they even kind of made me slightly tiny little bit care about what's going to happen to that storyline. So I feel like that's also quite impressive. um I think, Ulmo, how about Numenor? What was your, like did you feel that a little bit was missing there or a lot, or did you think it was pretty good as it is?
Yeah, I think that the problem we've been talking about this for a while, but I think that the problem that there is with us only having 8 episodes and them being around 1 hour is that there's gonna be storylines that are gonna be very compressed, and Numenor felt rushed in some way because we got from, oh, she's not the real queen, to let's kick all of the faithful and uh, all of that stuff. So it felt rushed in some way because we've seen the death of Valandil. Um, and then it felt like it exploded all of nowhere, and we came out of it all of a sudden. So yeah, I felt like something was missing, but I'm not saying that it was because they didn't do it well. I'm just saying that they didn't have enough time for it.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's completely fair. I feel like that is basically the general consensus on Numenor. It just feels like there's 15-20 minutes of screen time and and character development that's missing. And yeah, which actually leads us right into this question by Heimdall. Good evening, Your Divinity. So, a couple of questions. How are the chances of season three? Um, how are you looking season five plan, and is it real? What you think about season three plot if it happens? Thanks. So maybe we can answer questions 2 and 3 first. Um, so, in my opinion, and then we can also ask V and Ulmo. Regarding the plot in season three, they are setting up a war between elves and Sauron. Basically, it is kind of known as like that, the war of elves and Sauron, and that is indeed the war that does happen after the rings are taken, after the rings are taken from Eregion, after Eregion is destroyed, Sauron's forces ravage across Eriador, which is this area between the Misty Mountains on the east and the Blue Mountains and the sea on the west. So that whole area is called Eriador, and that is basically where, according to the lore, Sauron's forces just start ravaging. They attack Lindon. Um, Elrond is, I think, also gets besieged basically in Rivendell. There's a lot of stuff going on, and then at some point they're kind of saved by Numenorians. So I feel like that's the likeliest thing that will be like the main focus of season three, as well as at the same time we will be seeing this build up in season three in Numenor, where Farazon will be growing in power more and more. And now who knows what they have rights to exactly, because the Numenorian storyline is kind of all over the place across the books. So it will probably be a we'll have to see what they will be able to adapt. Um, yeah, so I think that's like maybe the main part, but I'm curious to hear V and Ulma. Do you two maybe have any? Did I miss anything, or do you want to
Uh,
perhaps speculate about other storylines?
you missed the founding of Rivendell. Oh no, okay. That's what I would focus on, to be honest. So they teased it at the end of season 2 with the place that they found, a sanctuary, they said. That sanctuary is, of course, going to become Rivendell. I don't think anyone has any doubt about that. So I'm really interested to see how they will go about it, because in the books, you wouldn't have Gil-galad being there. You would only have Enlord, and he would sort of make it out with the refugees and rule it until Gil-galad came, and they had like a council with a bunch of other important elves, and I don't think anyone else. Maybe a Numenorian or two, because I don't remember if it's after the siege or before the siege of Rivendell. Anyways, and when that council happens, he will make Elrond region, like help commander or something of the region, and he will let him rule that part of Eriador on his stead while Gil-galad is in Lindon. So I'm really curious how they will go about it, and basically what I'm expecting is to sort of have a war council in Rivendell, establish the place, and Gil-galad then go to Lindon. That's what I'm thinking about the Lindon storyline and the elves in general. And also, uh, I really want to see when Gil-galad will give his ring to Elrond, because supposedly he gives it in secret in that council after like they have he has made him his regent and give him authority and stuff like that. So there are a lot of stuff to happen there. I don't know how many of that will happen in season 3, because, as I said, we have Numenor to consider in, and I honestly think by season 4 at least Numenor will have fallen. That's coming as well, so they have to focus to Numenor next season. But there are very important stuff happening in Rivendell and Lindon at that time, and as you said, the war of between the elves and Sauron. Also, the Numenorians are involved in that. Because Sauron is, after he has sacked Eregion, he goes after Rivendell, and the siege of Imladris begin. And apart from Gil-galad, Tar Minastir, then like the Numenorian king that was actually alive at that period, comes to aid the elves. So we have many questions about what can happen instead. Because I honestly don't think Ar-Pharazôn will send help to the elves, or if he sends help, it will be in exchange of something. Because the Numenorians now have established that they don't really like the elves, they don't want their help. And then you have the possibility of the faithful showing up in Middle Earth as well. We have to do what will happen with them. So there are so many open things, but they are not actively open. Like they haven't left us in a cliffhanger. They sort of set all the pieces up for the next seasons, uh, without us being extremely worried about the characters. So I think it's a very interesting point in the show and how they decided to end season 2 and set up the plot for season 3. I don't think there is a question of the show getting renewed. I mean, we've seen very positive reviews, and a lot of people have watched it, and from the nits and bits we got from articles, there is no question about that. And the season 5 plan seems very real. But the point we are now, it's a very interesting point, because nowadays they usually end in cliffhangers. This one did it. And I'm really excited for next season for that reason.
Yeah. I think so. We have a tweet actually about something that you just mentioned. Uma, if you can get that quote.
Which one was it? Is it the Jennifer Sulk one?
Jennifer Salke, yeah.
Yeah.
Please, thank you. So there still hasn't been. So again, in response to this question number one, if you look at this tweet, basically, yeah, it is kind of confirmed that the plan is moving forward, and we haven't really heard anything that any single thing that can indicate that there will not be season 3, even though there's a lot of people who, for one reason or another, enjoy sharing things, even if those things are incorrect and they're based purely on their feelings or speculation. Yeah, despite all of that, we have not heard actually anything that points towards season 3 being under a question mark. So it is quite likely, especially also based on this quote, and there were a couple of other similar statements. There's no reason to doubt that season 3 will be happening, especially because Ulma, if you can go to the one about the viewing numbers, the subscriptions and everything, since Amazon kind of looks at this at the success of this show in maybe a bit of a different way than some other streaming services. They basically look at at the number of subscribers, the number of the number of new subscribers that the show brings, and as we can see here, according to news that were shared by Deadline, there was 12% increase in the subscribers of Amazon Prime, or of Prime Video, or Amazon. I don't know how they count it, but still. So the Rings of Power has done well. The ratings have been much better. It's just across the board things got much better for the show, and there's no reason to doubt season 3 will be happening. Now, I think maybe we can just quickly answer the second question. The season 5 plan, and is it real? It is, as you may have seen in the previous quote. They are committed to that 50-hour plan. Whether that's a good idea or not, I would say no. But I have been saying that since probably before season 1. The story, in my opinion, is way too big to tell it as well as you can, as you could, within the 50-hour frame. But that doesn't mean that the story still cannot be said, told in a nice way. Season 2 has showed that there's a lot of good stuff in the show. So, but let's see in the chat. I'm curious. Does anybody also? Yeah, Heimdall. Thank you very much for the question. The questions they were really good. I'm curious in the chat. Is anybody else kind of unhappy with the fact that we have 50, that we have this limited number of hours for the show? Or do you think, or is there, are there people in the chat who think, oh yeah, 50 hours is enough? Because, you know, if you're efficient about it, you could, but we do have a hobby storyline that's not really lore based. There's no particular necessity for it. We will see where they're building up with it, but you know, it is there. It is taking time away from the other lore based stories. So Flixer DK says, I personally hope season 3 will be about giving out the rings and the creation of the Nazgul. All right. So before we move to this comment, yeah, there's a couple of comments.
Yeah, I'm seeing
Yeah.
that. And by the way, I agree with Flixer. That's something I've been talking about ever since we were talking about in episode 6 and 7. We were talking about the post episodes, the conversations, and I was really into the idea of Sauron trying to find the Nazgul, and maybe, I mean, the story can go hand in hand with the whole Numenor storyline too, because we know that Sauron needs to get captured eventually by, I mean, captured is a big word, but you know, he's to give himself up to the Numenorians. Then he's like, wait, these people are pretty easily manipulated, so maybe I can give a few rings here and there, you know, as well. So yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, just a quick comment to everybody in the chat. Yeah, as Jessica says, I think everyone wants more than 50 hours. Yeah, I agree. And Haimito Frog says we can use an extended edition. Honestly, I feel like Amazon Prime, Prime Video, whatever, Amazon is missing out on a huge chance here to become a pioneer in television. They're missing a chance to drop the extended editions for a TV show. Honestly, like, come on, let's make some history. Just give us the extended cut. So many scenes got cut in season 1, season 2. It's insane. So let's just get more hours. What do you think, we?
I think that we are gonna be very old when the season 1 and 2 extended cut will drop. Like, if they do it Peter Jackson way and do like 10-year anniversary or something and give extra extra cuts and stuff like that, you have to imagine that this will be at least in 2032. I really want them to do it, but having to live through it and waiting for it, no. But I want them
The
to do
extended
it.
editions, the extended editions did drop just a couple of, like, they dropped actually fairly soon after the
Yeah, I don't
movies.
know
But
the
yeah, I feel like
exact timeline. I wasn't in Lord of the Rings then. I didn't know it existed. I was 9 years old when they
they've been
probably dropped
around,
the
but
extended.
I know what you mean. I don't think we're going to be that lucky to see
Yeah.
that happening.
I mean, it won't happen soon because they have to finish the show first. Because they
Yeah, but
have already
they
much
could have been
editing to do.
dropping them. They could drop it like between season 1 and season 2. Midway, you drop the
Yeah,
extended, and then. But you know, I think it's unrealistic
that would
sadly because of the
require
rights.
them to hire more VFX and editors and
Nah,
stuff like that.
it's mainly
I
it's mainly
think.
the rights. They don't have the rights for that, and this
Oh,
as far as we understand, they have signed a
yeah,
deal
true.
for 50-hour show, and that is it. That's the time they have. So I feel like,
Yeah.
and I hope, because the seasons are not 10-hour seasons yet, so I'm hoping that maybe they're trying to save some screen time for the later seasons. That could be also something that kind of could explain the shorter runtime so far. Um, Storyteller, yeah, I don't think there will be any cuts. Post production is expensive, but it's like there is still a lot of scenes that just got cut. So scenes are there, they probably don't need a big touch up. It's just the rights. You know, we can hope for it, but sadly, the rights just would not allow them probably to do something like that. Let's see what else do we have in the chat. Um, so there was a comment by Mickey Mouse. Yeah. So Mickey Mouse said that Peter Jackson had around 9 hours to tell the story from 3 books, and he created the greatest film trilogy ever. So 50 hours isn't really a small amount of time. Um, I agree. I completely agree. However, let's not forget the fact that the movies had to cut a lot of things out, right? Um, there's, I don't know, probably like 20-30% of the story that when you put it all together that had to be cut out or changed in some way. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, someone did the math in Twitter about how many minutes per year Peter Jackson movies were, and how many minutes per year Rings of Power is gonna be for the 2000-year period, and it's about the same actually. So the Tolkien math are mathing here. I remember I saw that like 2 weeks ago. I don't remember who did it on
Yeah,
TikTok, but it's amazing. Someone actually sat down and did the math process with the
yeah,
percentages to map out how many 9 hours are to the 30 years that Peter Jackson is covering, and how many the 50 hours are to the 2000 years that Rings of Power is covering. So there you have it, folks.
interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, the thing with the stories that they're trying to tell, there is so much. They had to compress so many things. The So we mentioned earlier, it's just the second age is wild, basically. Um, the rings were being forged for a couple of hundred years. So Anatar was in Eregion for, I don't know, 200, 300, 400 years. Um, the war of Elves and Sauron that happens after the fall of Eregion was as it is again a couple of hundred years before Numenor fell. I don't know that fully the timeline of the Second Age, but there's like hundreds of years. So they had to like compress all of these things, but the consequence of compressing all of these things is that it's hard to cover the story of Numenor properly with the time constraints that they have and with the compression of the timeline. What happens in Numenor is a thing that it's this thing that takes centuries as the decline of the society. So as they rise in power, the more they decline faster and faster morally, and this is this huge thing that's happening. Um, so they have to like condense this into all these years. So 50 hours, depending how you look at it, it can actually be quite a short window to give proper attention to some of these things. But yeah, I've ranted about it many times, so I'll just drop it here. But I can highly recommend it to anyone who may not have done that. Go read a bit about the Second Age and especially about Numenor. It's one of the biggest tales Tolkien ever wrote, and I just wish we had more screen time to properly develop all of this because it takes time over across the generations, and it also brings more depth to all the storylines that we are now seeing in the show. It would be better if we had like 2 seasons, 3 seasons prior of a setup to it. But yeah, anyway, so we have Harry. Good evening.
Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys?
All right, all right, all right.
Great to see everybody
Wait,
in the live chat, everything as well. So, yep, cool, cool.
yeah, there's 600 people, 626 people listening to us. So hello to everybody. Thanks for tuning in. That's YouTube and Twitter combined. And the chat is on fire as usual, and we have a lot of people who are always with us. So it's always really cool to see that. But Harry, let's ask you, what's your favorite moment of season 2?
I'm sure it's been mentioned before, but a lot of the Adaton Celebrimbor stuff, I think for me, which I'm sure has been mentioned, was the highlight of the season. Yes, hello, Cesar, hello, Douglas, hello, everybody. Um, yep. So I think Charlie Vickers' performance as well up there with another excellent thing, which I think was the best. And I think beyond that, Adar. Adar's whole storyline and character arc this season. Really sad that he ended up dying, but yeah, I know it's quite cliche. I pretty much say the villains. So yeah, that's for me.
All right. I mean, yeah, I think it's hard to just not give advantage to the Eregion storyline and the Adar storyline as well. The actors in both just performed really well, and yeah, it's hard to not talk about them. But let's do that. Let's talk about Tom Bombadil and Meteor Man. Sorry, Stranger. Sorry, Gandalf. Let's hear it in the chat. Maybe Ulmo, we can do a poll. Maybe we can finish with this poll. So Eregion won by 85%. Clearly the best story on season 2, to absolutely nobody's surprise. Let's do a poll about maybe about Tom Bombadil first. So maybe do like we like him, we don't like him, and the middle one that is like he's all right. And then we can do the same for Gandalf. But until then, we can also hear it in the chat. What did you all think about Gandalf and Tom Bombadil? How did you like the storyline, the trajectory of Gandalf's character? It's so cool that we can now say, oh yeah, it's Gandalf. It's Gandalf's character arc. And let's also hear it here. And let's start with V. So let's talk about Tom Bombadil first. How
Okay.
do you like his character?
So I really liked when Tom Bombadil was announced. I was ecstatic. Like I was really looking forward to it, and I really loved his introduction and how enhanced he was. He wasn't that merry. I would say I would give that to people. Like I would give that. And I had a few issues with the line of Gandalf he used and the quote they repurposed, but overall, I really like his character. I really liked his premise, and also the ending scene we got for him and Gandalf. When I said that to the stream, at one of the streams that we did for the reaction of episode 8, like I really love that when Gandalf got his name, he said, "Now let the sun begin." Um, or something like that. And to me, that is putting a very important Tolkien premise into the story, and that is that song is essential to the creation of a character, basically, in Tolkien. So when Gandalf got his name and basically his story is starting with his name. Now it's when his songs start, and that's like Sevskias. That was a very good choice by the writers, and honestly, one of the best for me personally. Like, it gave Silmarillion vibes. That's why I really, really loved it. And maybe it's leaning a bit to the theory that Bombadil is Eru because of how much he sings and stuff like that, and with signifying that the song is creation and stuff like that. So I'm really curious what they will do with the character from now on, and if they will use him a lot later as well. But I'm very pleased with getting to see the first ever on-screen adaptation of Tom Bombadil.
Well said. Does anybody have anything to add to this? Harry and Ulmo, maybe I feel like we covered a lot, but do you just want to quickly say, like, what did you think of Bombadil?
Um, Oma, unless you want to go first.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see going into season 3 if they will start with the stranger on his own or him leaving Tom Bombadil's hut. But I think people are mixed on it. Some said he was a bit underused. Some said he was part of the story too much because normally his character's more, illustrious. Is that the right word? It might not be. But essentially, what I'm trying to get at is that he's not really part of the world, like in the actions of it. He's in that balance, that thread between it. So some said, I think even Patrick McKay mentioned their Tom Bombadil is a bit more intuitive and more involved. So some might think it is a good balance. Some might not think it. Even here, and Wanderer said, I think it was a good balance. So yeah, I think it really depends on what you wanted out of him. If you wanted someone just merry and jolly, who wasn't really involved, whimsical, wasn't really involved, then fair enough, probably want to get that. If you thought he was underused and wanted more from him as a magical being, then again, maybe not sure what you got. But if you just wanted someone who just found that balance, and it's almost a bit of both, I think was yeah, I think that's what we got. So yeah, that's my opinions on that.
Well said. Um, let's hear it from Ulmo, and then I'll share my quick thoughts as well. Ulmo, what did you think of Tom?
Yeah, I actually am more on the lines of I think he was a bit underused. I mean, sometimes he felt a bit weird. I like the end of it with the song. I thought it was really cool, considering the lore and stuff. But he just felt like, I mean, Tom is a very difficult character to put anywhere because he's his own little world. He's not a character that goes anywhere. He's not even supposed to be in Middle Earth, so to speak. So yeah, it's a very tough question to answer.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, I think all three of you covered really good sides of the whole matter. For me, honestly, I think he was like 95% perfect because as some other comments as well said in the chat, if he was too jolly, too merry, like some things work on a page, but they don't always translate well to the big screen. People want to praise Peter Jackson's movies, rightfully so. I think everybody here will probably say, including myself, including all, like I feel like I would be surprised if any one of us here would say that those are not their favorite movies of all time. Um, they are great, but they did change a lot of things when putting the book on the big screen. They did. It's just a fact of storytelling that they had to do to make some changes. So for me, I feel like Tom really did work this way. Whether he could have been used a bit more, a bit less, there's also this part that's just subjective. We will all not everybody will agree on everything, and that's totally right. But I feel like he was pretty good. I feel like the actor really captured this little whimsical side of Tom while also being a proper guide for any star. Which who else is going to be a guide to any star? It has to be someone even weirder and more powerful in some ways, at least. Um, and let's see, what does the poll say? The poll says Do you like Tom Bombadil? Maybe we can maybe end the poll here. Do you like Tom Bombadil? 69% says yes, 14 no, and 17 are neutral. So only 14% says no, which I feel like that's a pretty good percent. Almost 70% does like Tom, and yeah, honestly, I think the show deserves a lot of respect for the fact that they managed to pull off pretty well a character that's really hard to put on screen. But let's talk about Gandalf. So it's been a couple of weeks. Things have settled down, and yeah, the reveal is that the stranger was Gandalf. We have all talked since before season one who this character is, who he could be. There was so many signs pointing towards him being one of the Blue Wizards. To be fair, there were a lot of signs as well pointing towards him being Gandalf. And also, to be fair, there were a couple of moments, couple of things that basically served as decoys who that were there to kind of push us in the wrong direction, and especially during season one. So, given all of this, and then the fact that Daniel Wayman, whatever anybody thinks of the fact that he is Gandalf, whether you like it or not, you don't care. Daniel Wayman has done a tremendous job from the first second on screen, acting most of the season one without words, and then throughout season two. For me, I feel like he managed to hit this perfect spot where he's kind of confused. He's learning things, but he never seems, you know, let's go like that. Like, he doesn't seem stupid or lost or something like that. He seems like he does maintain this deeper sense of awareness and wisdom, even though he kind of hasn't unlocked it yet. So, with all of this in mind, yeah, let's talk about Gandalf. Harry, let's start with you.
I just just want to firstly echo what you said about Daniel Wayman. Daniel, he's terrific, amazing person. I think he's always, again, I'm not trying to say this because it sounds too cliche, but he generally does in person remind me of Ian McKellen in the sense that they're both just very like, they're very, in your face, want to talk about it, very, excitable, care very deeply for the character. I feel like there's similarities in that regards from the acting. So from the people behind the two Gandalfs now. So yeah, that's one thing. But if the Dark Wizard ends up being a Blue Wizard, that make me a bit less, all worked up around the whole Stranger being Gandalf full deal. I think at some point it was always going to end up being Gandalf because you couldn't let general audiences that down after you hinting at it being the most well-known wizard of all time. Potentially, not sure about Harry Potter, but what's it called? I think, yeah, then letting them down with it having being, just this is Romistamur, but people are like, okay, so I think going forward from that, it was always going to be it. I think I'm happy at least that if there was be someone who's not Sir Ian McKellen, it's someone like Daniel Wayman now who's proven, I think, over 2 seasons, as you mentioned, very good. I think I'm really excited to see now the next steps to once you come to, the conclusion that he is Gandalf. Will we get his robes? How will he get his robes? That's what I'm looking most. Once you see him more kitted up again is the best way to say it. When you see him fully robed up and getting out of these. I think the thing he's wearing is still that tent from the Harfoots from season one when you went into it. Yeah, so I think he's still wearing that. So you go ahead.
I have a very quick fun fact. I don't remember the complete fun fact, but I think V, maybe you are our resident Wikipedia and all of that. Um, could you try to dig up information who made Stranger's costume? It's a very wholesome story. It's
from
I think
Sheltered, some chat. It's made up
I
from like
I
reused
I
something.
think it's ladies from some country in Asia who were in this like shelters because they
Yeah,
suffered abuse maybe or something. I can't remember off the top of my mind, but it's a really wonderful story. Like it was made by people who women who suffered through some things, and I feel like it was really wonderful move by the person who does the costumes
yeah,
to reach out to them and have them put that part of themselves into the story, give it to Gandalf. So knowing that it was made in such a way, it's honestly it's going to be kind of sad to see that costume potentially go. But who knows? It might stay with him throughout the show. But let's see
and
if he can
yeah,
maybe
no, of course.
dig it
First
up.
of all, that's very cool. I remember seeing that as well. But I think it's gonna be very interesting to see, rights wise. For example, Narsil looks a whole lot like Narsil from the movies, but how will they have Daniel Raymond's Gandalf look? I think it'll be a very interesting thing. Yeah, I think Mickey Mouse actually has the perfect way to describe it. From yeah, I think that's where my thoughts are. If you wanna almost put that comment up, um, but yeah, I think yeah, from Gandalf is just we have to wait and see now. And I think Heimdall actually mentions the point that I think would be really cool, the Dark Wizard. And I think yes, it's either, in my opinion, one of the Blue Wizards who killed the other Blue Wizard, or it's going to be Radagast. And I'm personally still hope it's the Blue Wizard, but I don't know. I can kind of see him being Radig. Actually, no, he can't be Radagast. No, it has to be a Blue Wizard. Sorry, I'm going back and forth right now. Yeah, it would be really, really silly if it was Radagast as well. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. So yeah, that's what I think.
Um, yeah, I'm also trying to find this particular uh, thing, but I cannot dig it out.
Cool. But in the
Let's
meantime,
see.
fine, can anyone in chat then give a reason why it should be Radagast? Because I'm struggling to think why it should be Radagast
Why it
over a Blue
should
Wizard.
why it
Yeah,
should
why
be.
it should be. I still think a Blue Wizard makes much more sense than Radagast. But if someone in the chat could pull up a compelling reason,
Mm.
um, that, yeah, interesting. Yep, interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, I think I mean we actually did a video on all these theories, and I think we're gonna do another video where we just compile all the potential evidence who the Dark Wizard will be. My personal bet is he is a Blue Wizard. Whether they get the rights to say, "Hey, this is a Blue Wizard," but I don't feel like, yeah, as Jessica says, it shouldn't be Radagast. Radagast is the least likely. Saruman is the next one, I guess, but I feel like that one is also completely out out of any logic. Um, I think it must be a dark blue as well. V, if you can't find the information, that's okay. Never mind. Just take my word for it. That strangest costume has been made by some people who have suffered through some nasty things, and it was really nice that the costume designer reached out for this. And if any lovely person can somehow dig this up and tell us in the chat, that would be also very nice. Um, okay, so we have a quote from Jessica here. McPain told someone, I think Nerd of the Rings in an interview post finale too, stay tuned for the Blue Wizards. You are right. So yeah, Nerd of the Rings did a couple of interviews that have been posted since after season 2 finale premiered, and he there asked something about Blue Wizards, and one of the showrunners said, "Stay tuned." So yeah, it sounds like a hint towards Blue Wizards. So I feel like this does make way more sense. Does anybody have also like any proper proof for the claim that this is Saruman? That would be interesting. Uh, okay. So, Harry,
Yo,
do you are there any interesting things that you? It's maybe like a little segue. Are there any things that you're looking forward to in the next couple of months, for example? Or like is the next thing that you're looking forward to the War of the Rohirrim, or is there anything else, or what's the thing that you're excited that the channel will do?
well, first thing, sorry, my voice is absolutely going everywhere. First thing, hoping for Rings of Power season 3 official announcement is going to be filming next year, but getting that at some point. Will be very soon interviewing um Alex Tarrant, who plays Valandil. So if you want to get a picture up of Valandil, I know a lot of people missed his death, so you didn't want it to end, you know, have him at least say something, to the community and talk about the show. I think, for a character that was loved so much through the 2 seasons, I felt like it was right to at least give some justice to that. So yep, we have interview with Alex Tarrant very soon, which we asked you guys for questions for, which is very cool. Then in 2 days, we're going to have coverage around the War of the Rohirrim straight from the panel and potentially some more stuff as well. So that's going to be Shiv from our team is going to be down at New York Comic Con, which is going to be so much fun. If you are there, go say hi to him. We're going to be trying to make as much content there and have potentially some interviews. So that should be fun as well. And I think, yeah, big stuff ahead. We're going to p- plan our way with, of course, with Rings of Power. We want to keep on doing these intermittent. Is that the word? Inter um stuff in this period plan before we fully probably get into season 3 proper content around January. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff on the horizon, and this New York Comic Con interview with Valandil. So yeah, that is I think where I'm at currently.
Yeah, a lot of very really very really cool interesting things happening the next couple of weeks. um yeah, I honestly I am really excited, and seriously, like I think it's crazy how much the channel grew in the last couple of years, and the fact that, yeah, we're gonna have this cool interview with Valandil himself. um and then we have Shiv, who is going to be at the New York Comic Con talking to the War of the Rohirrim crew. Hopefully, we'll see. We'll see how all of that goes, but still, he will be there to represent Fellowship of Fans. And yeah, and then who knows? Who knows what will happen in the next couple of years, especially with the live action movies coming up. And there's a lot of really cool stuff going on. Um, yeah, let's see. Do we have in the chat? Okay, so Harry, do we want to? Is there anything else that we want to talk about the interview, or do we just keep this for now and then we maybe move on to the next topic?
Let's move on to the next topic.
Yeah. Okay. So we have one. I have one question for everybody. So, um, in the chat, what do you expect from this storyline in Casa Doom? We seem to be having some political struggle coming up, and I'm curious to hear any theories about this, because this feels like a complete. It's kind of a surprise. It's not something we know from the lore. So, what do you think? Where is the storyline going with this? And let's go to Ulmo. Ulmo, what do you think of this hinted at uh, political struggle for power in Khazad-dûm, and did you expect something like this?
No, I didn't. I really didn't, because it feels a bit strange that all of a sudden it's like, hey, by the way, you have a brother, kind of thing, because for the entirety of the show, we were told that, I mean, he's Durin and all of that stuff, and we only saw him, and then all of a sudden we're being told that you actually have a brother. So it feels weird because the brother didn't get any screen time, and it feels like a bit pushed in some way as well. Um, I don't know. It felt strange. It felt strange for me. It felt like they just needed to add more tension in Khazad-dûm. Um, and yeah, that's it really.
Okay, well, I have to say, I do think somebody, please correct me if I'm wrong. I do think there is a quick mention, literally one random sentence mention of him having a brother in season one,
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
but it's yeah, uh,
I think
yeah,
it's
but
after he
yeah,
was stripped
his own,
of his rights as a prince.
yeah, 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 around that time. Um, but I mean, if any dwarf fans, yeah, working, hopefully maybe that summons him, can tell us a bit more. Yeah, as Sisa, Lost Try Hobbit says, Durin's brother plot is going to be interesting, but came out of nowhere. Maybe if somebody who knows the dwarves can perhaps tell us a bit more about this reference. I feel like it's as we says, it's at some point in season one when Durin gets disowned. Okay, Mickey Mouse, do you recall the moment season one when Durin the Fourth tried to tell everyone his real name, but they got interrupted? I wonder if that could be important in the future. Another, yeah, great observation. That was hinted to be like a big moment in season one. I wonder when this will happen. That is, I feel like it's probably like Chekhov's gun. If you see, it's that whole old trope. If you see a gun in a play, the gun will have to fire at some point before the end of the play. And if this real name was made a big deal out of, so I feel like we'll probably um, learn more about it at some point. It must be mentioned at some point for sure. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. I'm curious also to hear some theories perhaps about what do you think of the representation of these other tribes of dwarves? Basically, so far we only had Khazad-dûm, and only now we got some brief mentions, and we saw a couple of representatives from these other tribes. How is everybody feeling about all of that? And do you have any theories? Like, will we be seeing more of them? Might we see a civil war or something like that among the dwarves? Let's hear it in the chat. And Harry, what do you think? What do you think? Where the dwarves
Yeah,
going?
that's a good question. And actually, one of my favorite things was that we actually got to see, which originally I thought, I was like, oh my god, are they showing all seven of the dwarf lords at this table? I was like, okay, send it to your leaders. I was like, okay, that makes a bit more sense. But I think it's something where I hope they have the screen time to show it, because if they do, yeah, seeing the seven tribes go at it and also see the political problems with it would be so good and almost be good for a show itself. But again, with time wise, I don't know how much they can do. They'll probably focus on one or two, and I'm guessing one of these seven dwarf lords will end up probably being Durin's brother. Durin, I was about to say Durin the Fourth, but it's just Durin now. Um, so, but thankfully, because it makes sense law wise. But yeah, I
Mm.
think they need. I think they'll focus on at least two to three. I think that makes the most sense. I think it's something where you can see Durin's brother to the helm come back. The deals that it looked like by the end of the season off screen. It was like I think King Durin the Third had made some pretty crazy deals that was getting them a lot of gold from the other tribes, or all the other halls of the dwarves. So I think it's something where we're going to see the repercussions of that. I think that's going to be a big political point for the show. It was almost paying tribute, weren't they? By the end, because you saw him
Mm.
sat on the throne of
They were, yeah, in
all
exchange for
this.
the rings.
Yes, and exactly for the rings, and I feel like it will become a thing. I think stability, more so instability, will be the big factor and theme for the dwarves going for the rest of the show, because I know we all love Durin the Fourth, but he's still, I'd guess, before King Durin the Third went mad, he was a very strong leader. And is Durin the Fourth a strong leader yet? and I guess at least for this season, it's been more him learning, and with that will come problems, will come issues, will come dilemmas, including his brother, including for most. And the thing that Navi was correct about, sorry, Odysseus, was most of the time 99% of the dwarves saw him and his dad not get on at all. So I feel like a lot of them are right in thinking that, was he actually meant to be the heir? So I'm actually quite excited for this story. I know it did feel a bit weird. It was all just dumped in one sentence at the end of episode 8. Again, story screen time issue, in my opinion, as I keep going back to. But yeah, I think in the end of the day, it should be something where hopefully we won't see them all 7, but I hope we get 2, 3. And then yeah, it'll be very exciting to see how that goes in between, of course, the War of the Elves of Sauron that's happening at the same time. So, yeah, very, very excited for that. And I do have to pop out now because I have to prepare Shiv for his journey to New York Comic Con, which very exciting. So we've got lots planned there. So I'm going to bow out. But yeah, really good stream. Nice to see people are still actively discussing the show post show because I know if there's hardly anyone showing up, it wouldn't probably be a good sign. But it's great to see everybody here still wanting to
Yeah.
discuss, still wanting talk to you guys. And yeah, I think everyone here, Elmo, V, Stride, of course, everyone done a great job. And yes, catch you guys later.
Thank you very much, and see you next time.
Bye.
See ya, man.
And say hi to Shiv.
Will do.
Yeah, well, Harry did mention a lot of interesting things about the dwarves, and the thing that I'm wondering if they're setting this up and if they will be brave enough to do this thing. It's somewhere, I'm not sure where, but it does say. Actually, I think Elrond says it during Elrond's council when he's talking about the Battle of the Last Alliance. I think that he says so. It's definitely it's somewhere. I think it's Elrond who says it, but it's definitely somewhere in the books. I think I'm going to paraphrase. It is paraphrasing something like, "On that day," meaning the Battle of the Last Alliance, and like specifically like the last battle. But of all the races were on both sides, and except elves were all united against Sauron. So this implies two things. First is, if you take it literally, it also implies that some of the orcs fought against Sauron. I was kind of hoping we would get Adar maybe leading some group of orcs in the Battle of the Last Alliance, perhaps against Sauron. But that aside, it does also very strongly imply that dwarves, we're not surprised, men were always corruptible, the most easily corruptible. So the fact that they were split in the Battle of the Last Alliance is no surprise. But dwarves, so I'm wondering, like, could this be that they're also setting up some of the dwarves, some of the dwarven tribes, perhaps Durin's brother, perhaps being one of them, potentially leading one contingent of the dwarves supporting Sauron and fighting against the Last Alliance. So I'm curious, V, do you think we could see something like this? And like, would you like to see that? And bonus question, what do you think? How would Barking feel if that happened?
I think Viking is going to be very conflicted next season as to who dwarf to support. So I think it's very possible to see like the brother of Durin being in a different tribe. The thing is, I think the dwarves are one of the most traditionally medieval royalty in the Middle Earth setting. So they have tribes across the whole of Middle Earth. They are in communication with one another. There are probably political marriages with one another because they are sort of all keen with each other. They're all connected. And for them, time passes quickly so that we have a sort of record of exchanges like that, and a change anyway. Because when you think like the elves are aging very very slowly, so the change in kings is very slow. Men are very surprisingly, they're not as connected. For example, Numenor has its own royalty; it doesn't really mix with anyone else until they come to Middle Earth. And the separate kingdoms like Rohan, they stick to their own kingdoms. They don't mix with one another. So the thing with dwarves that I find interesting is that their community is more connected and their kingdoms are more allied to one another, and we get that from the Hobbit. Like Thorin asked for help from the other kings of dwarves when he was trying to go get back Erebor, and now we have to question if Durin's brother is in another kingdom or not. For me, I don't think it's as sudden, because when a king dies, it's very usual in medieval times for several successors to come forward sometimes, especially if someone thinks that the obvious successor isn't capable enough. And with during the fourth being basically stripped of his titles in season one, it's very easy to argue that he's not fit to rule, although he was reinstated. Also, to answer to someone that mentioned that King during the third said King during what he was saying and stuff like that, no one really witnessed it, so that's a very easily falling claim to do as well. So, and also after the sacking of Eregion, the dwarves don't really show up until the Battle of the Last Alliance. So it will be really interesting to see how preoccupied they will be with their internal political matters. And I think that was the weight of the showrunners to sort of explain why the dwarves didn't show up, because I don't think there are many explanations as to what happened apart from like the doors of Durin being shut so that Sauron doesn't get in. So yes, it was kind of sudden to mention him, but as Strider said, the brother of Durin was mentioned in season one very briefly. I don't remember the exact quote though. And also we have to remember that Durin isn't exactly a name as well, is more so a title. And in this case, probably given a bit early, because I think it's usually given after their rule starts. And also, as we were talking, I was trying to find a genealogy, something of the dwarves. It doesn't have anything about an actual brother of Durin the Fourth, but I guess it is because it's not a very well described period of time for the dwarves. The most genealogy we have, I think it's from the Hobbit period when Thorin was king under the mountain briefly, and we have his forefathers, his sister, and some of his cousins in the genealogy track. So it's complicated, let's say. So I'm really looking forward to it and how they will write it. And I'm rooting for During the Fourth. Let's go. So yeah.
You know, everything you just said, I feel like it's in many ways the fact that they're taking a lot of these liberties. To be very clear, I do not agree with a lot of changes they took. I really do not agree with some of the approaches they took towards certain characters or storylines and so on. However, I do also try to keep an open mind because, as we discussed earlier, even Peter Jackson's movies that are the ultimate cinematic perfection for millions of people across the world, including myself, even those movies made changes to the lore and not all of them landed well, even though mostly, obviously, they did. So I'm trying to keep an open mind, and I want to say, like, the fact that there's basically two storylines at the moment in the show where I genuinely have no idea where they're going. In case of the dwarves, okay, we know the final. We think we know the final stop, the final destination of that storyline. Presumably, we'll see them in the Battle of the Last Alliance, and then who knows how they'll handle it. Lore wise, Durin should live. I don't think he dies in the Battle of the Last Alliance. However, everything
That's it.
from this point until the very end of the show, we have no idea what can happen with dwarves. That's one thing. The other thing is, who knows what's going to happen with Gandalf? How the hell he will fit in all of this? No way to predict. Third thing, I think most people agree the show would be better without them because they just waste. They don't waste, but they take away the much needed time from other stories. But still, we have this whole story with the hobbits that's going on, and even though we might know the general direction where it's going, it's still a complete surprise for all of us. So the fact that, like a lot of us here, we have read books so many times, we know the lore really well, um, to varying degree, but still, like a lot of things are known. And the fact that we have 30 episodes in front of us and we have no idea what's going to be happening for at least 50% of the time, honestly, it's pretty cool to be a Tolkien fan, to watch the show and be still surprised and not know exactly what's going to happen. I think in some ways it's probably an underrated gift. And that was also another thing. The fact that we have Balrog here, I do hope we don't get to see the fall of Khazad-dûm in the show because I don't think there's any need for that. However, if it does happen, maybe it's some people would say copium, perhaps, but I feel like you know let's say they did do the follow custom. I do not think they should. It, I feel the show will be tragic enough as it is. But if they did, when would we have the chance to see the fall of Khazad-dûm on big screen or like on TV screen in live action? When would that happen? Who knows if we will all live to see that depicted on screen. So the fact that we might see this, it's it's pretty cool that there's this chance of a surprise down the line that we could see all that. I do like the fact that several people in the chat were like, "Nope, Hobbit's bad." So fair enough. I'm just happy we're not seeing Malva. I can live without her. She is for me. She is still the true villain of the show. Um, I mean, yeah. But let's see what else are people saying in the chat. So Chris Chiu Tabet asks, do we think we'll see Galadriel and Khazad-dûm at some point? I always loved her friendship with the dwarves. That is an excellent question. Thank you very much. And I'm going to let my friends here discuss this. Let's start with Ulmo. So what happens in the books, Galadriel and Celebrian uh, at some point crossed through Khazad-dûm. I believe it's around the siege of Eregion. So Ulma, what do you think? Since siege of Eregion has passed, what do you think? Is there still a way to maybe see this happening, crossing to Lothlorien perhaps in season 3?
Sure, but we don't have her daughter, right? So it's gonna be a bit more complicated, or she does it by herself. I wouldn't mind it. Maybe in the later seasons for it to be like a bit cute, somewhat. I think that would be nice to like not an Easter egg, but like a wink to each other, type of thing. Or one dwarf could like have make a comment about her hair or something. Like I think we all know the reference to that, so that could be fun. But otherwise, I don't really see it really happening or being too much in the show, really.
All right. What about you, Wee?
Uh, I don't think the first time Galadriel goes through Khazad-dûm was with Celebrian, actually. So it's very plausible.
Yeah, I think I think you might be right, but still,
Yeah, it's
what do you
very
think about this possibility of Galadriel?
yeah, it's very plausible for her to cross Khazad-dûm to go to Lorien to find her husband and her kingdom for once. Really rooting for that part. And um, because if I remember correctly, when they crossed, uh, Celeborn didn't want to go with them, and Galadriel didn't had a problem with that because she had crossed in the past. So it would make sense for her to go through it, and especially given now that they are besties with Elrond again, and Elrond is besties with Durin. She's friends with Durin by Elrond, in my opinion, so she can help through it. Um, I'm quite curious though as to how this will play out in general, but it's not my main worry with Galadriel's story time. Like, it's not the main question I have for her story arc. Like, Celeborn is more at press here than if she will go through Khazad-dûm or not. So
Um, well, I'm not. Whether it does happen with. Sorry, I'm just gonna skip to this next comment here. Hello, Taku Senpai. Thank you for joining us. Lovely to see you again. So, should Galadriel cross into Lorien, which is still under its older name, Lorinand? Or, I mean, there's two or three older names, so one of those. Um, yes, so I think it might be an interesting way to get Galadriel to Lothlorien, because she will have to get there at some point. The interesting thing, and also somebody in the chat said as well, that Celeborn doesn't really like the dwarves. So basically, what happens? Celeborn stays in Eregion. Galadriel goes to Lothlorien, and then it is Celeborn is one of the in the lore. Celeborn is one of the commanders of the defense of Eregion. He is there during the siege. Um, while Galadriel is in at that time she's going to Lothlorien. Uh, Celeborn is not a fan of dwarves because he is from Doriath. And what happened to the realm of Doriath? Well, it was sacked by the dwarves. That's what happened to Doriath. So he's really not a fan of dwarves. He is one of the elves who probably dislike the dwarves the most. So yeah, but on the other hand, yeah, it would be interesting. I think I think it would be cool to see Galadriel with the dwarves. She did. I think I might be missing the target of the quote, but there is a quote of Galadriel viewing someone with an eye of a commander and saying that they are a worthy force to be reckoned with. I think it's actually in the reference towards the dwarves, but still, yeah, it's one mention of Galadriel, like basically thinking as a commander. Um, yeah, I think it would be interesting to see that, but who knows? It would be. I think it would be funny to have her, to have Morphin Clark's Galadriel interact with Owain Arthur's Durin. That would that would be an interesting situation. Let's see what else is happening in the comments. So Chris has an interesting thought here. He says, "I fully expect Celeborn to show up with Glorfindel, but you never know." Um, maybe that's a good question. So let's hear. I have an idea for a poll, but let's hear some options in the chat, and then we can put a poll. So please, folks, the give us some ideas on who are the characters that you think we could see in the next season. We will take Anarion out of that equation because we know we'll see him. He was name dropped. So yeah, who could it be? So we could see Celeborn, we could see Glorfindel. Who else could we see?
For season 3, I don't know. I think most of the characters that we wanted to see, we've seen them already. Like, and we have already a mention of Anarion. Really trying to think right now. I'm struggling with that. Maybe.
So
Thranduil or Orofer. I think those
exactly,
are
I
the
was
two
about to say
other
that.
contenders that everyone wants to see, and it's wondering if they will show up.
Exactly. So and Wanderer has been faster than both of us. Yeah. So Celeborn, Orofer, Trundle, Glorfindel, Erestor. So let's say like this. Ulmo, I'm gonna send you something in the chat. So Ulmo, could you put the name I sent you?
Yes.
Tranduil, Glorfindel, or not Trundle, maybe Orofer, the name I sent you, Glorfindel, and Celeborn. And don't put out the poll just yet. So the question is, who of these characters we want to see the most in season 4? So Celeborn, Orofer, Trundle, Celeborn, Orofer,
Season
Glorfindel,
4.
and Amdir.
Season, is it
4,
season
yeah,
4?
okay.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
So Celeborn, Orofer, Glorfindel, and Amdir. For people who are unsure if there are any, Orofer at this time is the king of Greenwood, which will later become Mirkwood much later on. He is the father of Thranduil. So he is one option. The other option is Glorfindel. The third option is Celeborn. The fourth option is Amdir. Amdir is the king of Lothlorien around this time. So, well, some things happen, and Celeborn and Galadriel become the Lord and Lady of Lothlorien later on. So it's interesting to see. It will be interesting to see how they will handle all of this. But yeah, let's see what you all think. Who we will see there. Let's see who do you folks think we will see in the chat. V, what do you think? Or is there anyone here that you think we would not see of the characters listed here, plus Amdir, the king of Lothlorien that I mentioned? Who do you think is the least likely we will see?
I think Amdir actually is the least likely. He's one of the lesser known characters, and I don't know if they have rights for him. Like, was he in the appendices even mentioned? Like, do you think that they will go
That's
in
an
length?
excellent question.
The servants, because they are in constant talks with the Tolkien estate about which characters they can utilize and which not when it comes to characters that are not mentioned in the trilogy and the appendices. So would they go to that length to, if he's not in that, which I don't know, will they go into that length to ask him from the Tolkien estate as to basically just to have Amdir? And as I was seeing in the Tolkien Getaway, where he's mentioned, he's actually not in any of the trilogies. He's in Unfinished Tales, Morgoth's Ring,
Yeah, I think you're right.
The Lost Road and Other Writings, and the Peoples of Middle Earth. So he's not in the trilogy or the appendices. So it's quite interested. It would be more plausible to at some point see Amroth, but I think he's in the third dates with Nimrodel. So I don't think it's possible to see Amdir. Sorry.
Okay, well, V has dropped some lore on all of us here. Give her a mic, so she can drop that one too. And yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. I think I would probably like to see all of these characters rather than Thranduil, just because we do see Thranduil, so I want to see more lore characters on screen. So if I had to make a pick, I would take all these four. I mean, we're gonna see Celeborn, that's for sure. Um, but I would rather see um, yeah, I would rather see any of these others than Thranduil. Like Glorfindel, I would like to see him even more than Celeborn. To be honest, I will take the lore, whatever. I'll take the lore breaks. I want to see Glorfindel on screen. But I mean, yeah. But let's hear it. There was a theory. A lot of people subscribe to this theory, and I have to say, I'm quite afraid of this theory because I fear it might end up being very true. Um, so the thing with Glorfindel, he is this again. For if there's anybody among the 842 people listening who is not sure about Glorfindel's backstory, he was this very powerful hero of. He was this very noble hero of Gondolin, the hidden city. And when this city was found by Morgoth's forces in the Silmarillion in the First Age, it was sacked, destroyed, and Glorfindel was one of the heroes helping some of the people escape the city. And when they were waylaid by a bunch of orcs and the Balrog, he wrestles off a cliff. He wrestles a Balrog off a cliff and dies also in the attempt. And then he is later on sent back basically as, let's, how do you, like a companion to the Istar. That we the five wizards were sent, and he is sent in a similar role, and he is this epic hero who is the only hero to die and then come back to Middle Earth. It's insane. He's really cool, and he is, so far we have been robbed. Exactly, thank you so much, Ulma. This is the perfect image. um we have sadly been robbed of seeing him on big screen in the Bakshi animated movie. He was his spot was taken by Legolas, and in the movies, of course, it was taken by Arwen. He is actually the epic hero who finds Strider leading um, the hobbits to Rivendell. So yeah, for me, I want to see this epic dude. I don't want to see him forgotten again. But the theory that I have heard, and a lot of people subscribe to it, and I feel like it's sadly a very realistic. I mean, very realistic, but it's possible that Celeborn might have in the show, not in canon, might have died during the First Age, and the theory says that he will take Glorfindel's spot. So he would, in this theory, come back from Valinor and be this epic hero um, instead of Glorfindel. So if that happens,
Honestly, it will be so fitting for Celeborn to do that, given that Arwen took his spot in Peter Jackson. Like father, like daughter. But
yeah,
it will
right.
be it will be such
That's a great point. Yeah, that would be
such a
so
miss.
silly.
Like they brought Tom Bombadil and they won't have Glorfindel. Come on.
I feel like, to be fair, I think it was San Diego Comic Con, but someone did ask the showrunners, "Are we going to see Glorfindel?" One of them, I forgot which, one of the two of them said yes or wait for it or something like that. But basically, they gave a positive response to the question, will we see Glorfindel? So I'm going to console myself with all of this. Uh, but speaking of lost elves who are who knows where and who knows why, let's hear some theories about the Lord of Lothlorien himself, Celeborn. Any theories? Anybody? Can you please explain to us what the hell is Celeborn doing all this time? Is he really just chilling in Lothlorien? You know, like doing who knows what, getting drunk with water or something? Like, what's happening over there? Why is he? Where is Celeborn? Actually, oh my god, we need to make the meme because
What me?
Celeborn asks
Where
where
is
is Gandalf
me?
for what for what
Yeah,
I
the
desire
meme is
I much
made.
desire to speak with him.
The meme is made. Where is
Well,
me? For a much desire to
just
to
decide to
show
speak with
up.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's maybe make a counter. Let's make another version of it. But anyway, yeah. So let's see in the chat. Thank you, Mo, for the lovely illustration. So let's see some of the theories. Some of these are, of course, made in jest, and I appreciate that. Jessica says he is lost in the Greenwood, or he is one of the masked Galdrim, the people in Rune. Uh, and Wanderer says maybe he's a prisoner.
I I want to go
He,
the prisoner idea because I think it's quite stupid to have him in another realm of elves and not showing up and Galadriel thinking he's dead. Because the elves talk to one another, especially the elves that fall under the region of Eregion and respond to the High King of uh, Gilgalad. And because you have to remember the way that the Elven royalty works is that for the Noldor at least you have a High King and then you have different smaller kings in that region that he rules, and they respond to him. They are loyal to him. I don't remember if I think Lorien falls under Mirkwood actually, and Amdir in fact joined Orofer in the War of the Last Alliance. So okay, you could argue that if Celeborn is in Lindon is in Lorien, he wouldn't the king there wouldn't have to inform Gilgalad or anything that they found a subject of his. But still, it doesn't really make sense because it is they talk to one another. Like Sindar and Noldo are not that um, separated in
separate.
that period of
Yeah.
time. So it makes more sense for
Yeah.
Celeborn to be a prisoner somewhere than for him to be just chilling in Lorien.
Yeah, I think it's really well said. I mean, both things that make sense. Like, okay, is he that? Like, okay, why? What's how does he come? Like, if he's that, he's going to do. He's either going to come as instead of Glorfindel or with him. But it's like, I mean, okay, that's at least kind of cool. Like, it's badass. Um, it's completely lore breaking in like 15 ways, but it's cool. Um, the other option, yeah, like if he's imprisoned, like what? Who imprisoned him? Like, why is he the one that's imprisoned? Where? By whom? For all this, hundreds of years, thousands of years, whatever. The third option, okay, he's alive. He's in Middle Earth. He's not imprisoned. Where the hell is he? Like, is he really just chilling in Lothlorien, not looking for Galadriel, who has literally traveled across the map, like Indiana Jones looking for him? I mean, I guess not really looking for him. She was looking for Sauron, but still, like, you would imagine he would have heard. Maybe he thought his wife was dead, but like, if he thought his wife was dead, like, there's no way he would not have heard of the commander of the Northern armies, Galadriel, traveling and being all this hugely important person. Like, there's no like, what is? It's like the domino effect. How does this happen? So let's see in the chat. Wanderer says lost memory, perhaps. Honestly, yeah.
Not
Like
again.
I yeah, that would be a silly thing to do, to pull off that trick twice in the same show, but it's like the least annoying one. Like, not the annoying, but it's like the least illogical one. Like, okay, yeah, he was in a coma for 1,000 years, like in Lothlorien somehow. Fine. I don't
Many,
know. It's
many medical questions about how an elf staying in a coma for thousands of years.
yeah.
So
You
the
you
problem
get them,
with
V.
being,
Tell them.
yeah, yeah.
Ask the questions.
So the problem with Celeborn being a prisoner is that is by who? Because he's probably lost and he's probably assumed dead since before Sauron's disappearance. Like when the OG Sauron gives that speech, that's about the time that uh, Celeborn is already gone. Okay? Because that was the last time that Sauron somehow was involved in killing the elves and stuff like that, and that's when Galadriel was starting going after him. So after Morgoth's defeat and all that is also after the time Finrod is found dead. Um, so you have Adar killing Sauron. So if we assume that Celeborn was a prisoner then after Sauron's death, Celeborn would now be a prisoner of Adar. But he was nowhere near the camp of the orcs. We never saw him. We never saw Adar carrying around any prisoners. Only in Mordor when they captured the Southlanders. And Adar knows very well the history and the people of Middle-earth and especially the elves. And since he mentioned Melian and he knew her, there is a high possibility that he also knew Celeborn from um, back in the days of Dorian. So he would know that that prisoner is Celeborn, and also he would know that because he was the right hand of Sauron, and if Sauron had an important prisoner, Adar would know about it. So he would have used him in the negotiations with Galadriel if he had him. So the question is, where is Celeborn held prisoner? Because he cannot be with Adar. He cannot be with Sauron because he just got his orcs army back, unless they have another hold that they are keeping people in. And that it wasn't mentioned for 2 seasons straight. And then there is, I don't know, like I really, really don't know where he could be.
Yep, I think you you captured all the wild emotions about this question really well. Okay, so before we go to Ulmo, there's a wild comment here. By, I'm gonna try to pronounce this, Chosievitka Odola. How about the Sleeping Beauty spell? Um, yeah, how about that? Ulmo, what do you think? Where the heck is Celeborn?
Yeah, it's a good question. I have no idea, and they better make up some very good excuse because if it's just some lame ass excuse of I don't know, I was just going doing grocery shopping and I lost track in the
He
woods
went
of
out for milk.
Lothlorien or something. Maybe he was in Mirkwood and he lost track of the like the dwarves did a few thousands of years later. That could be something. Who knows? But I hope that they make up some good reasoning behind it, and that is gonna be somewhat believable, at least for us.
Yeah, yeah. Those words are as likely as any of what we and everybody else has said. Let's see in the chat what's happening. What else is happening? So we have someone saying they want to see Prince Imrahil on screen sometime soon in Numenor. I'm sorry to break this news down for you, but that will not be happening. We might meet a character who might have the name Imrahil, but we will not be seeing Prince Imrahil or Dol Amrod because none of that exists yet, and it will not exist for a couple thousand years. But I think that's a good name that should absolutely be used in the show. It's a really cool name and it should be used. And I hope we get to see Imrahil during the show because at least that way we can get some of the Imrahil glow in the show. That's right. Okay, so we don't have to talk only about Rings of Power here. Maybe we can. I think we're nearing the end of the stream, but maybe we can have some quick discussion about. So Taku Senpai has an interesting comment here. So Taku Senpai says he's hoping that the Hunt for Gollum is not becoming 2 movies unless it has evolved into something else. Yeah. Otaku, if you have any ideas what it could have evolved, maybe you want to elaborate in the chat. But until then, let's see. V, what do you think of the Hunt for Gollum? Not necessarily this idea. I mean, you can touch on that as well if you want, but more on the fact that it's middle October 2024. The movie is supposed to come out in 2026. So let's be generous. Let's say they're going for a Christmas release 2026. That's still 2 years and 2 months away. And we have not, I think the movie is in the process maybe of being written. We didn't hear any mentions of confirmed casting of anything except the fact that it's happening and that Peter Jackson is involved. What do you think? Like, how does this all sound to you? Do you think it's possible that we will get this movie 2 years and 2 months from now?
It is certainly possible. It's not the story that I would have chosen to tell from what's left out from Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. I'm not as hyped because I'm really worried about this movie using the old cast for nostalgia and using de-aging and AI, and especially with AI, I disagree a lot, and not leaving the room for new people to be cast, because at some point they will have to be cast new people if you want to still milk out what's left of Lord of the Rings characters. I mean, I'm very cautiously optimistic about this movie, I guess. And I definitely think that they're recycling some of the favorite characters and memeable characters and not actually going for something more innovative that they could go and explore more. For example, I would be more in for finally have a romance movie in the Lord of the Rings universe and get Arwen and Aragorn original meeting and stuff like that, than get The Hunt for Gollum. So, and if it happens to be 2 movies, it's a stress. I mean, it's 70 years, but most of those years were Gollum going to being in Mordor tortured, then Gollum being in Mirkwood captured for several years. So we will have Legolas just tracking down Gollum half the movie, meeting and having member berries with Aragorn and Gandalf and whoever. I really don't see a point in this movie. It's like two paragraphs in the books that most people are not even that interested in. So yeah,
I mean,
make
I
a movie
feel
about ants. You have countless pages of Tolkien describing trees. Make a movie about that. More
okay. Well,
entertaining.
okay. Uma, let's do a poll. How much are people excited about Hunt for Gollum? So let's do options. I'll type them in the chat real quick. So, V, do you have any alternative option for what you would like the second movie to be? So there are two movies that were announced: Hunt for Gollum and one other. What do you think could be the
Okay,
second one?
so it's not actually two movies for Hand of Gollum, thankfully, I think. Although I don't know, with Ian McKellen's um, comments, you're never really sure. The second movie, as I said, I would definitely see a a romantic fantasy basically of Arwen and Aragorn. Sorry. Another one that I've seen going around is the adventures of Eladan and Elrohir, for which they can do whatever they want, because there are no stories. But the Eladan and Elrohir, for those that don't remember, are the twin sons of Elrod, and they're basically a fighting duo that goes around and finds out orcs especially in the third age, in the fourth age. After the departure of Elrond, they stayed longer in Middle Earth, and they departed for Valinor way later. But the problem with those stories are that they're not that appealing or appeasing to the common audience. Um, and another one that I think would go perfectly with the War of the Rohirrim coming out, it would be a Rohan story of Westfold falling and stuff like that, and Theoden going under the spell of Saruman. Basically, I want to see something more original and not necessarily written in the books, like written out entirely. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Those are some pretty good ideas. Ulmo, do you have also thank you for the poll in the chat. Do you have any preferences which movie you would like to see else besides Hunt for Gollum?
Yeah, I have a soft spot for Rune, honestly. I and I'm going into the realm of yeah, nothing with that comes close to the Silmarillion is gonna get adapted. Otherwise, I would say obviously I have a movie about myself, 'cause duh. But that's not happening, so I would say Rune. Um, I think Rune is like a very underrated region, and we don't know much about it. I fell in love with Rune ever since I saw the design of the characters that we saw in the Two Towers first when they marched through the Black Gate. I thought that was really really
Mm-hmm.
cool, and I wanted to know more about them and that, and obviously the Olifants and all of that stuff too. So I really want something
I
akin or
heard
close.
OnlyFans. I was like,
No, no, no,
what are you talking about, brother?
no. I said oh, I said all Olifants,
OnlyFans. Yeah, yeah,
not
totally,
not.
totally. Just took me a couple of
Can
seconds.
you? You're making even the fucking blush. Like what the hell, man? Nah, OnlyFans, OnlyFans. You have a weird mind.
OnlyFans,
Let's
yeah.
put it like that. Yes. Jesus. No. Yeah.
Thank you,
That's
Jessica. Goodbye.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, bro.
No, no, it's so good, so good.
um, yeah, I think. I mean, I think any movie that covers a different part of Middle that we haven't seen before, hell yeah, let's go. Um, I want to say, yeah, thank you, Jessica, for being with us tonight. Take care and see you next time. Where was there was a good comment. So there were actually two good comments. So Max Brett Schneider says Aladdin and Elder here is sort of like the King Arthur movie or Prince Imrahil Kingdom of Heaven style going to defend Minas Tirith. Um, first of all, yes. Second of all, hell yeah. The fact that you gave a shout out to Kingdom of Heaven, that's one of my favorite movies. And yeah, I didn't think of it like that, but I feel like that's a really good comparison. I'm just gonna watch Kingdom of Heaven now and imagine that it's Imrahil on screen, and just imagine that's Minas Tirith with a happier ending. Um, but there was a comment also next to that one. Taku Senpai, yeah, my thoughts exactly. The second movie, The War in the North, including the Siege of Erebor and attacks on Lorien and Woodland Realm. So yeah, we did discuss this within our Fellowship of Fans group several times, and the War in the North does feel like the appropriate companion movie to the trilogy. If they're going with Hunt for Gollum, so it's something that's like right there around the plot of the Lord of the Rings. The War in the North, and with that name, would be really cool. And also shout out to the game, The War in the North, which does cover all of these events. Uh, Attacks across the North. Well, the War in the North is called that for a reason. It happens during a parallel with the story in the books, and it's really cool. And yeah, I think that would be a really good movie, honestly. Especially because they could set that movie, they could so easily I feel like that movie would be way easier to make and make it fit with the Lord of the Rings movies than the Hunt for Gollum, because the Hunt for Gollum has this thing with casting getting the actors back, right? Do we recast them or do we get our beloved actors from the movies back, even though they are older now, and for some of them you can kind of see this. So, do we do this or do we recast them? However, the War in the North, the only characters who could potentially make returns there are basically some of the dwarves from The Hobbit. And the fact is, it also works well because they would be older. So the War in the North would theoretically would cover the things that are happening at the same time as the siege of Minas Tirith. While Minas Tirith is under siege, Erebor and Dale are attacked. Also, Lothlorien is attacked. Also, Woodland Realm is attacked as well. So, Woodland Realm meaning Mirkwood at that time. So you could easily get Lee Pace to come back. I think he could be pretty easily made to look as appropriately similar to what he looked in the movies, because I think he hasn't really changed that much, especially because the movies were just a decade ago, while in Castle of the Lord of the Rings movies it's 2 decades ago. So you can get Lee Pace if you want to have him there, but any other character, King Dane is really old at that time. You could get the actor who played him in the movies. You could cast a different actor. He doesn't have a huge role in the Battle of the Five Armies, so you could really easily also recast him. Or I think I'm not sure if the actor is alive. I think it was it Billy Connolly? If someone can check, the guy who played King Dane Ironfoot. But anyway, it would be a really easy movie to make without the you could make it look completely the same as it did in the Hobbit movies, while not having to cast any of the actors from the movies who might not look the role anymore. So I feel like that's probably a pretty good. Um, I think that would be a really good choice. But let's. So yeah, I just got the information that the actor who played King Dane is 81, but is thankfully still with us. So who knows? Otaku Senpai says in the comments, could Bard's actor play Brand, the grandson of Bard? I was thinking the same thing. I don't know. I would not mind. It's an interesting story still. I
Yeah.
think like why not? We could do
Yeah.
that. Brand is the king of Dale at this time, and he is the grandson, as Otaku says, he's the grandson of Bard from the Hobbit story. So yeah, I think that would be really cool. Let's see, is there something else in the chat? So yeah, Chris says that Billy Connolly is alive but retired because of Parkinson's. Well, thanks to him very much still for bringing King Dane, or at the time he was a king, but he does become king at the end of the movie. Thanks for bringing Dane to the screen. Dane, our Ironfoot. Maybe we can do one final poll for tonight, but let's see the results first. So Ulma, let's see the results. Ooh, that's a big spread over here. So the question was, how excited are you for Hunt for Gollum? The first option was 1 to 4, 8%. That's not surprising that it's that low. However, we have a very even spread from 5 to 10. So 29% voted for 5 to 6, 33% voted for 7 to 8, and 29% voted for 9 to 10. So basically, 1/3 of people is middlingly excited. Some are one third of people is indifferent. 1/3 of people is mildly excited. 1/3 of people is pretty excited. Interesting spread. So let's do one quick poll, and then we can wrap up the stream. Maybe we can try to see some of these options and see what people would like to see the most. So we could put War in the North. What else did people say in the chat? Can I get some help here? What are the other things that could
Immerhill for like Kingdom of Heaven, although
happen? I mean, I think that's more of a
yeah. Elrod,
not
Eladon and Elrod here. I'm pushing
Ella.
my
Then let's do that
ideas.
one.
Yeah.
Ella.
And personally, I think
Elrod
Arwen
here.
and Aragorn is very plausible.
Okay, so let's say young Aragorn. But I mean, we're kind of getting counted for Gollum. But yeah, let's say young Aragorn story. That's maybe like a bit of different
No,
actor, for example.
specifically
And
with Arwen.
is there another idea that we can put so we have like we have 4 options? You know what? Let's just go with this with these 3. Ulmo, can you just put these 3? What would people like to be the second movie that Warner Brothers announced? And let's just put these 3. So again, War in the North, stories covering stories that were happening at the same time as the Siege of Minas Tirith. The other 3 peoples were attacked as well, so we would see this. Mainly, probably, the focus would be on Erebor, the Lonely Mountain, and Dale. The other option is Eladon and Elrond here, the twin sons of Elrond. And the third option is and their adventures, because they do a lot of adventuring with the Dunedain and Aragorn as well, and young Aragorn story. And let's give it a couple of minutes for this, and then we can wrap up the stream. And I have to say, shout out to all of you. The numbers have been increasing the whole evening. We are up to 907 people, and you are all awesome. Thank you so much for chatting with us. It's been such a
And
great
we're
chat.
closing like
So many
2
cool
hours.
ideas. And yeah, we were going for 2 hours. Okay, so let's give it 2-3 more minutes, and we can close the poll. But so far, War in the North in the lead convincingly by 62%. With 62%. Okay. Well, anyway, while we
By the
wait for
way, we
some
didn't
more
talk
votes,
about
yeah.
like, yeah, for the Hand of Gollum, I think we basically have a confirmation that Hugo Weaving wouldn't be interested in coming back as Eldred, and there is a possibility to see an Eldred. So maybe they will cast a new one, which will be like we will have three Eldreds because I don't think they will get
Yeah.
Rob Aramayo, obviously, for very obvious reasons.
No,
So
he
yeah,
wouldn't be. Yeah, I think that movie can, you could get Elrond there, but I feel like that movie can very easily exist without him. So they
yeah,
would probably
yeah,
go this
sure,
route.
sure. I
They
think
can
they will
always
go.
reference Elrond and
Mm,
just cast like, an elf can show up as a messenger from Elrond, and they don't have to really cast Elrond. There's a lot of
yeah,
ways to
yeah,
go around
exactly.
it, but it is, yeah, it's big news to have. This is, I feel like this is probably the first actor from the movies that has said like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. Which,
And
fair
it
enough.
makes a lot of sense.
Mm. Actually, so Flixer DK makes a really good point. If it has to connect with the Gollum movie, then War in the North would be the best choice. And actually, I didn't think of it like that, but actually, yeah, that's a really good point.
Mm.
Like this, actually, that's a terrific point. I'm kind of like shocked with the logical connection that's there that we haven't really discussed. It would be the perfect. Actually, it would be the perfect setup for the War in the North movie. You could extremely easily set up the events for the attack on Lothlorien. Well, maybe not Lothlorien, but the attack on Mirkwood, the attack on Erebor and Dale. It's all right there, and it is what happens in a way. Gollum is brought there by Aragorn, and then at some point, he is kept captive while they wait for Gandalf. Gandalf comes, has a conversation with Gollum, fills in the gaps in his story of what happened to the ring in the last 3,000 years, and then at some point Gollum escapes because orcs attack Mirkwood. So yeah, honestly, Flixer, this is the coolest thing I've heard all evening. Thank you so much. I'm just gonna kind of hope that this is what happens. And let's close out the poll, and we can also wrap up very soon. So, Vor in the North wins convincingly with 63%. Young Aragon Story gets 21%. And Eladan Elr here get 15%. And honestly, even this 50%, respect for that. I wasn't expecting even that because they're not very well known. But the legends know. The streets know. All right. Well, that is it. Ulmo, V, do you two have any final comments about anything tonight, or we are going to wrap up?
I think we've said enough already.
We have said a lot. Ulmo, anything from you?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Always cool to be here.
You're not good. You're great, man. Much appreciated. And yeah, well then, in that case, and I gotta say, the views keep. We have 915 people here, so we are at our peak still. But we have talked for 2 hours, and yeah, thanks to everybody listening. Uh, Actually, let's first say like this. Thank you, Ulmo, for taking care of the stream. You've been an absolute trooper tonight. It's really, really, really nice to have you with us.
Always a
Thank you for
pleasure.
doing all of this. V, thanks for everything, all the cool stuff you do from day to day. and for always being a cool companion for our discussion. And then thanks to everybody else who has joined us tonight. Probably close to around 1,000 people, if we count also the people who have left the stream this time, or throughout these 2 hours. So yeah, cheers to everybody in the comments. Thank you all for all the interactions. Thank you everybody also, if anybody's here who interacted with our tweets today. We read a lot of cool things that you have shared, especially to the thing that we asked. Yeah, this was great stream. We covered a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's just really, really cool that there's so many people who just want to talk Tolkien, even on a random Wednesday evening when nothing particular is happening. So yeah. With that, I think we can close out the stream. And okay, so let's just quickly answer this question. So Flixer DK asks, are you going to do another season 2 recap or season 3 prediction podcast? Yeah. It's a long way to season 3, so we will yeah, there's a lot of
The
stuff.
simple
There's a
answer
lot of
is
stuff.
yeah.
The answer is yes. There's a lot of stuff we have planned. All of this is already on the list, so do not worry. There's plenty of stuff to talk about. As Harry said, also for people who may have missed, our friend D is going to be on New York City Comic Con this week. He is going to be talking with. He will hopefully get the chance to interact with War of the Rohirrim people. He will be asking some questions. We are looking forward to his report. It's going to be a lot of cool stuff from him. And also, this is very important. We are going to have an interview with Valandil himself, the Lieutenant of Numenor, Alex Tarrant, and we are very excited about this. We'll update you more about it very soon. And yeah, a lot of cool stuff happening. And we are also going to have. I mean, it's less than 2 months until War of the Rohirrim. It's really, really good time to be a Tolkien fan. We can all
Yeah.
start our rewatch of season 2 as well, and it's a lot of really cool stuff. So, with that, if you haven't subscribed, please do. Please leave a like to the video. It really helps us. We're not a big channel, so it's always a big help if you can comment and or like. More subscribers we have, it's always good. If we also have more follows on Twitter, perhaps also you can join our Discord. You can also join our Patreon. That would also really help us a lot. Again, we are a pretty small channel, but we do have a lovely group of people in our community, and we're really grateful for that. It's so much fun to just come here and chat, and thank you so much. So with that, we'll be talking to you very, very soon. We wish you a very good evening, and Namarie.